Hi.
Now we're on. Good morning.
Good morning.
It's Sunday, February. Oops, see, it does now.
No,
See
it
now,
no,
no, no,
but
no, but it's only 2 seconds. So now we're live. Good morning. Where are all our viewers?
good
Wake up!
morning.
It's
Super Bowl. Super Bowl Sunday.
Amy's so excited about who, like the Chiefs or the Eagles. Or you?
Oh, that is that who's playing?
There
The
you go.
apples. I like the apples.
There you go. Go Kendrick.
Yeah.
Fly Kendrick.
Go, Mrs.
Fly.
Apple, my first grade teacher. I really love you.
Um.
Thanks for loving me so much.
So it's Sunday, February 9th. At 9:01. Good morning.
Here we are. Just to orient you all
Yeah.
to yes.
We
to
were
the
up late.
Space-time continuum.
We were up late because
We were up late.
We all went out to see a show in Randolph, Vermont,
and
at
went
the Chan-
to
at the Chandler
prestigious
Center.
restaurant.
Went to a James Beard award-winning for crankiest waiter Thai restaurant.
But wait, I want to talk about this other thing that happened just on my walk into the office.
Sure.
That,
Yeah. Better be mundane. 'Cause that's the title of our program.
It will be mundane for some, and I mean it's a perfect example of the dreams and how the dreams bring the mundane, in to help us, because our life is full of lots of stuff that could seem very mundane, and is like a lot of the stuff of how many times do we have to shovel the driveway and wash the dishes and all the things at work and all that stuff. And if I hadn't had 1,000 or more dreams about this stuff I'm about to talk about, I would never have known. As I ran down, which was really fun. We have a lot of snow, and I had to run in the roads, and I passed Hannes snow blowing and
Morning, Hannes.
and then I came in, and the parking lot here is beautifully plowed, like the most beautiful, wonderful place of all my entire journey down here. I was like, wow, it's like, and then there's a path between the parking lot and the door to this office, and it's like unshoveled, so it's very filled with snow, and I was like, okay, like, man, I hope there's a shovel on the porch somewhere, so I can shovel this, so like Ben doesn't have to walk, so I can shovel the thing.
And you
like,
didn't find.
So no, listen. So I was like, okay, I'll like shuffle my feet. This is true. Like, this is how ridiculous, like, my protectors are, or it's how ridiculous my learned, like, way of coping, or so I'll explain it, and then we'll be done with this, and hopefully we can talk about the waiter and so I shuffle through, and I'm like, okay, that's a little bit of a path that I made with my feet, and then I was like looking for a shovel, and I was like, what is happening? Like, what is happening? Because I could already feel in my body between the time that I got through the parking lot and to the end of this little tiny pathway.
We're talking about 7 feet.
Yeah, it's like the energy in my body was starting to change, the quality of the way I felt in my body. So, I shuffle, and I'm like, you gotta do the thing, like, gotta shovel, because I'm helpful, because I like to help, because I'm gonna shovel, and then everyone's gonna have a nice little path, and that's so great.
For everyone else gets a nice little path.
Like, yeah, and I'm gonna do it, and then instead I went to my dream place, which is to be the girl who this is intense, but be the girl who hung herself and feel this man lifting me up, and I fall into his arms. And in that moment, I'm being able to really connect this homework in this place in the dream where I it is marking the place where I decided where I killed myself, um, which I had tried many times when I was a teenager to kill myself, but this is how I did it, you know. And so from that place of killing myself, I just shovel. That's where it was kind of the my compulsion started, and to help other people, be a really good helper, like be the one who does all the stuff, be the one who does all the stuff nobody wants to do, be the one, and then I can look really good and it looks really helpful. So this is why dreams really illustrate these things that can be so good in the world and look so good in the world, and everyone loves them, and we get a lot of accolades or like for doing these things. But what it was doing inside is I was that girl hanging. Like that's what is really happening. And so I mean, I feel it so strongly, like the truth of it, that it's really like powerful, you know, for me. So I could just feel, and so instead of shoveling, I felt how, because that girl, when I was that girl in the dream, the going back to my dream place and the experience of being that girl walking to the room where I hung myself, that was that energy that I was feeling. I was so angry. So here's the perfect setup. Like I was like unreachable is what I said, you know, when I was in session with my therapist.
When you were that
when I
age,
was that girl that age walking
which was like what age?
13.
13. Okay.
So, you know, I'm walking and I was so angry and I was like, fuck everybody. Like nobody, like no, I mean, it was so, the quality of it is so extreme. And I know it, but there's something about this dream that really like is even more so somehow, like how I had really made my choice. And like that was it. There was really no backing away at this point. Like and so so what I did was, this is an example of when we were married and like the laundry thing that you brought up in an earlier podcast of living with me, and like how much I was doing laundry and how, so I was doing all these things to be helpful, but it was not. I was really that girl who was so angry, and so it was all done with this, like, and it's such a great setup because it looks really, it doesn't feel good, as you can attest to.
It seems really good, and then when you're living with it, you're like, oh, yeah.
Right.
It's like, wow, I have a wife who keeps on top of the laundry. I never have to wash another sock. And then Amy's popping out of bed at 7 o'clock in the morning to do the laundry instead of like being here with me.
Yeah. Or with anybody. Like,
well, I mean, my own personal experience of it, but
sure. Yeah. Right. I mean, exactly. Like, rather do that than be relational or be present or be or let go of this. You know, that there was some way that thing, you know, was really like, it's like I feel it as like this grinding. You know, it's like metal grinding. It's like the feeling in my body. It's so like heavy, and like there's this like resoluteness to it, and or so you know, something. It's so really intense, and what I can feel, and I don't feel like I'm doing the best at articulating it. But where else? Oh, it came up again. Oh, here's another. Again, it seems like a tiny thing, but this is. So I go to pee after we get inside, and I mean, this is, you guys, talk about mundane. The toilet paper roll is like up in one of those big things, like at a restaurant, and I can't find the end of it.
It's really annoying.
So I'm like, I'm spinning it and spinning it, and I can't find the end. And I'm like, okay, when I find the end, I'm gonna do this thing, because we have the same. Another hilarious thing is we have the same company at the restaurant where I work, so it does the same thing at work. It's like that. So I'm like, okay, UniFirst, like it's a big flaw.
Shout out UniFirst.
Negative shout out UniFirst. Where it's like the word. It didn't. Anyway, whatever. So I get it and I pull it all the way down and I make sure to tear it off, so the next person doesn't have a hard time reaching the end of the toilet paper. That is, like it is that ridiculous. Like that is that same place where it's like I'm angry and annoyed that I can't get the toilet paper and I
Right.
just want to, and then I'm trying and trying, but I'm gonna do the thing that makes it like I feel like that behavior is connected. All that learned compulsive stuff that became was embedded into my personality, the Hello Kitty personality, the cheerleader, the like,
Right.
I'm happy all the time and
Right.
I'm helping
Right.
everybody and because I love you.
Well,
You
it's
know?
like Hello Kitty, like is what I mean. I don't want to lay this on you, but it's like Hello Kitty is sort of the girl killed herself and Hello Kitty was left over.
That's exactly what it is. That's not laying it on me.
Well,
That's
what I was
yeah.
curious about.
That is exactly what it is.
Yeah.
That is what was so. What was born from that? Unless I really felt this in the dream. What was born from the moment being the girl, which is was so easy for me, and such, and to be that 13-year-old, you know,
to feel yourself.
To the whole thing, to feel myself walking, opening the door, getting up there, and like then hanging myself. And I apologize if this is because this is the intensity. I understand that this can be really intense. It's because of all the work that I've done and all the trauma work that I've done that this dream is like feels like the most incredible dream I've ever had, you know. But so
well, I also want to say for folks listening and how the dreams work, it's like this is how intense the dreams allow us to experience in order to heal.
Right.
And so it can be horrific to imagine a dream where you're the one who's hanged because there's no. And I want to then I want to talk about my dream this week because there's a similar quality to it. I realize as we're talking, but that's this is the moving all the way through place that the dreams can offer.
Right.
Because it goes to the worst moment that we don't have to avoid.
Right.
With the help of the dreams, I want to be really careful because
right.
It requires support and skill and understanding.
Right, and
as well.
Right,
Yeah.
and I just will say to that, and in the dream, I was an 8-year-old girl. So I was an 8-year-old girl watching the 13-year-old girl. So right there, that's, you know, and I in the dream.
There was no Hello Kitty in the 8-year-old girl. Right.
In the dream, I opened the door and I see the 13-year-old girl, and I had watched her, and I felt, I was like,
you had watched her go into the room.
And you know, and I was like, I can't get her down, and I turned around, and I looked into the crowd, and I chose a man, the tallest man, like he was like 30 years old. I walked over to him, I took his hand, and I said, I need your help. Can you please help me? And he, you know, and he came in, and then, so that's, all of this is present when I say my dream place is about being the 13-year-old girl. It's really about getting brought down and falling into his arms. And it's my work right now is really what I've been doing is loving that girl who hung herself, not judging her, and I've also been able to see and feel how I have judged that place in me, that nihilistic place, that angry place, and I've judged the personality and the persona, that Hello Kitty that I have, you know, that I developed to just survive. Once I died, what rose from the what rose from that dead girl was the ether of her, which was, you know, was Hello Kitty, this like you know, thing. So loving her has been really amazing, and it's been, I didn't realize how much I had been carrying, how much self-judgment of that part of me, and I didn't realize how much, I just didn't, there was a lot that came up in session, shout out to my therapist, that I hadn't really realized, that has been really amazing to return to and really feel more about that girl and how she came to the point of walking down that path. And
because one of the things you said to me that's so profound is she had no other choice.
Right. Well, I
In the life that she was in,
right.
there was no space for the
Right.
eight-year-old girl.
And I tried.
Yeah.
Like, so this is the thing that I was missing is like I didn't realize how much I tried. Like I tried to not have to walk down that path and hang myself, but I could, like, the support
There
was gone. Like, but at that, there came a point where I did everything that I could do, and it didn't work.
right. There was nothing out there in the world
Yeah.
that did anything right.
So that's a piece that I really didn't really realize, and this dream has helped me realize, and therefore I have much more. I like really feel how true that was, and ironically, blessedly, like the times that I did try to kill myself didn't work. Like I did not succeed. So so the only thing I could do was this thing, which was
instead of, you couldn't literally kill yourself, so then that part died,
right, yes,
and or just got stuck, and then
right, because it was too scary. I couldn't have, like, it wasn't, it was just really too much. It was too painful. It was too hard to not be met and to see and feel all that I saw and felt, and so I chose this other way, whether it was conscious or unconscious. It was very effective, it was very effective in keeping me alive, like,
So this is, I'm just like, wow, like, is it, can I?
Yes.
So, like, the mundane, because I think of my childhood, and the word mundane came up for me last night, partially because I had a session with a client yesterday who had very mundane dreams, but it opened up this whole thing. He had dreams of, I'm just driving, and he has to drive a lot for his work, and dreams of, I'm just kind of taking care of the house.
Yeah.
I was like, well, why would the dreams just do what you already do? And it opened up a whole thing of the juxtaposition of the mundane against, because he's feeling a lot of really deep stuff, but the life that he's in right now, he's sort of cornered into a mundane place. Like he's living in a house where his parents haven't moved out yet. He and his fiance are there, but he can't, like, the dark mother energy for this person is literally in the house because she's moving out, but in the meantime it's doing this other stuff, and it's so he's stuck in his horizontal world in this place where he's working with business partners who are not so great. He has to do all this work for them, and he's living in this house, and he and his fiance have to kind of be in the basement. And it's sort of like the life is this mundane place. Meanwhile, he's having these incredible dreams of archetypal support, of getting a flat tire on this road where there's this work crew and all this fire. And, it's like, so the mundane is contrasted against these big feelings that kind of allow him to see that these big feelings kick ass against the mundane, but the big feelings aren't necessarily feelings of love yet.
Right.
He's not able to he's not able to accept the work crew love, but he's learning about the vulnerability versus the mundane.
Right, he's in the process.
Right.
This is part of the process of accepting the love is like this where
So he had this other dream in the sequence where he fell asleep. In the dream, he wakes up to realize he fell asleep with his glasses on, and his glasses are kind of broken. But it turns out, this is where the horizontal meets the vertical, it turns out that he does fall asleep with his glasses on, and his fiance often takes them off his face and puts them aside so they don't get broken. And he feels some shame about that in life. But so his place was to feel her anima taking off the glasses. He's not on his own. Because the on his own is all this mundane stuff. And what I'm feeling is, you and I have known each other for so long. We were married, we have a kid together. And I feel something brand new today about the similar quality of our suffering in a way. Like I think I didn't even realize until you were just saying that there were these suicide attempts. I don't know if we've really talked about it all that much, but there's something that's just the profound trauma of not being seen, but it's more like not having anyone with us. Like no one's with us. That's how I felt as a kid. No one was with me from the get-go. Like I was so depressed. I don't remember not being depressed. Like as soon as I was 4 or 5, I was already like, life is like, ugh, right? But as a 4 or 5-year-old, there wasn't like the terror or the trauma or it was just mundane. And so I grew up and I was just like, life is sort of hard and mundane and like just this cynical nature of it with so little. And I know the word agency isn't a great word. Like I want to find a different word, but there was no, okay, this is happening, and so there's also this other thing that I can do to help myself or to receive help. And so I had this dream this week because I have been suicidal even up until recently. I had this COVID flare up that pulls me right back into this trauma of shutdown and terror that feels so excruciating in my body that I'm like, I don't want to be in this thing, you know. But thank God I've never attempted even so. But I had this dream that lines up with this. That feels very, like it's kind of really touching to me and beautiful because there's like a similarity. You see this part of yourself, this 13-year-old girl who had realized there was no other. There was no vulnerability. There was no way to escape the mundane that was actually horrific.
Right.
And that now this 8-year-old girl comes in and she's like, hey, guy. And the animus, what we call the animus, shows up and can take, that's like the healing. He can take you down.
It's
and you're
so
just,
amazing.
Yeah,
Like,
and you're just in his arms. And so I had 2 dreams this week in the midst of this awful COVID thing that just sent me back into the depth of the trauma feeling in my body. I had one dream where I was in a place, I think it was Capitol Grounds, which is the local coffee place here. It's a sweet little place. Wake works there, and it's just sort of this like little buzz of a coffee shop and people around. And in the dream, there's this woman, and it's a mom, and there's a boy who's about 4. And I'm talking to the boy who's around 4, and I'm kind of doing this cutesy thing with him where I'm like having him hold something in one hand and then like in the other. And in the dream, I'm thinking about like, this is how brain development works, and like, isn't this cool? And it's like, but that's like the lawyer Ben plays in me. It's like I know something about brain development, and so I'm not in any way relational to this poor boy who's stuck with this mother, which was me. I was stuck with this mother who like I was stuck with this mother. I mean, I can talk a lot about it, but I can talk about sort of how that feels, which is very much alone and oppressed in this mundane place because my mother chose a life that was mundane, even though it didn't seem like it because she was so eccentric, right? But I could be in a coffee shop with not enough money to get what I wanted, you know, but everything was like okay and something. So I had that dream, and I had this other dream where I get a phone call from a guy. I know for some reason I know the guy is Latino for whatever, which is worth something because the archetypes often come as, for me, people of color because there's a like a non-relatable unknown quality to that allows for vulnerability to open. because there's some mysterious gap quality,
Mm-hmm.
which, God, I wish we could all fall into because it's so fucking amazing. So this Latino guy calls me and he says that this young man who used to be a client of mine, who ironically has a link to the client who I saw yesterday without breaking any confidentiality. But this is also how the dream's kind of like, woo, it's all together. I get a call and he says like he needs help with this client. He doesn't say I need help, but I feel like this old crisis responder guy in me, which was work I used to do with kids, of responding to kids in really severe crisis because they were deep in their trauma, but they were acting out and breaking things. And so that was my job. I'd get called in. So this guy is calling me in, just like staff at school would be like, hey, we need some help over here. So I'm like, I don't work with him anymore. So I'm like, like there's part of me that's like, I don't have the responsibility here, but I'm still pulled in to it. And so the boy is there. He's kind of a young man, but I can feel how this quality of like teenagehood up until like young adulthood for me was so devastated in the same way. Like that period is so long for me. So he's a young man, but developmentally 13 was like, wow, the world really sucks. And it's just, I was so cynical and nihilistic, not suicidal at all, but I thought the world was just, it was just drudgery all day. I had beautiful, wonderful friends, thank God, who I'm still really close with, which helped me with my survival. But I was so depressed. So depressed. I couldn't do I had no enjoyment other than being with these wonderful guys. Like it was nearly impossible for me to spend time by myself without feeling that. So in the dream, this young person, he's laying on the ground and his legs are on fire. And I am like, oh my God, like it's intense. He is so, I'm like, we got to get your and there's snow, so I can roll him in the snow, which is, thank God the snow's there, which of course is covering up feeling, right? So snow is frozen feeling. We put the fire out. We think, oh, that's good in real life. Like, I'm not saying don't help someone who's on fire by rolling them in snow, but like in the dream world, in the archetypal realm, that is the opposite of transformation, because fire is about transformation, right? And so, but he's just like, I don't care. Sort of like, he's given up. He's given up, which was very much my experience of this guy. He wasn't able to be vulnerable for good reason for him. I feel for him. But there was no quality of him ever in all the years I worked for him saying a feeling or reaching out for help or saying, I don't know how to do this. He was incapable of it. He was very like, and also had this weird hubris, which I also had at the time, of like knowing that he knew more. Or
right, which is your other dream.
Right. So here he is on fire, and I'm trying to help him, and he's heavy. But it also feels like horrific, like whatever your feelings are about seeing this 13-year-old girl hang, this has like, for my version of a similar quality of it. It's like on fire and there's nothing we can do about it. Like it feels awful. And I think I do end up rolling him in the snow. But that feels heavy, and so what? I rolled him in the snow. It's not like he has a life to live that's any different. It's like we put out the fire, but he's still going to be heavy and despondent and cynical and unreachable, which is, I can just feel how that was me. And that part of me, it's like that was how I coped. Like you coped with the I'm going to help everybody, Hello Kitty. I coped in becoming like the more nihilistic version of Woody Allen, sort of like all these fucking idiots out here and everybody's so stupid, but I was also heavy. I can just feel the heaviness of it. And God bless my friends again who were um, like they were like Christopher Robin to my Eeyore in a way, but it was very so. So my place is to feel is to not be the boy on fire because we would think, oh, be the boy on fire. It's about transformation.
Yeah, be careful. This is
right. This is where it's like nothing. Like, what is this like DreamWorks symbology? Fire equals transformation.
Yeah.
But in this case, it isn't to be there on fire because again, the fire is like false fire because it's also tied to my emotional incest of like some wonderful relationship with a woman. The desire that I might feel with her is going to take me out of this heaviness, which as you experienced with me, that configuration didn't work. You know, because like when Amy and I got together, I kind of got more depressed and more needy, and your Hello Kitty was like, all right, I guess I have to do everything because Ben can't do anything. You know, what a setup. I'm so glad we're still so close, and I've raised this wonderful child because we've both been able to like break that dynamic by not being together because that didn't work. So we can be our fiery children selves. Our actual fiery. So, and then I had a dream where I'm driving. This all relates because there's also this like intensity of it. I have a dream where I'm driving and I see like this town and there's sort of like fire, something big, fire, and then there's this nuclear explosion, like this mushroom cloud, and I'm like, that's it. You know, and that's like that, and then I feel really scared, and so that actually is the transformational fire. That's like the but how do I deal with Armageddon in my body, right? Like so moving these pieces together, like the healing part, you went to ask for the animus, we would call him, because you knew as the 8-year-old girl, he was there to help. You knew that, and you talk about how when you were a girl, you knew God, which I didn't at all. I didn't have that context at all, so I didn't have any animus, right? God, I survived all this. It's fucking amazing. So my place is to not be the boy, but to just watch the boy, because the boy's not going to help. That boy gave up on helping himself because poor boy, no one could help him, and he couldn't help himself. And then I have there's like that shame piece around. I should be X, Y, or Z, but I couldn't. I like loving the 13-year-old girl for me is like loving this boy who can't be helped.
Right.
I can't help him. He gave up. I can't like, and instead of that feeling nihilistic and me trying to help, I'm stepping back and I'm just being with the man who called me, and I'm just standing there with him, watching the burning boy, which sounds awful. But in the context of how the dreams and psyche work, what I actually feel myself is the 4-year-old boy from the other dream, and I'm scared, but he's right here. It's like I'm able, because I think part of what fucked me up so much was like I stared into the existential void as a 4-year-old. Which is unacceptable. Right. I mean, I literally had a dream, or not a dream, an experience of thinking about how people are dead forever and then alive for a little bit and then dead forever. As a 4 or a 5-year-old, like I remember that moment. It's like the same thing. It's like existential nothingness, you know. And so I can feel myself as it's so, God, dreams are fucking cool. So this is like both you and I are going into this like this deepest place, and what I can feel is like now I can be with that horror of this boy who's given up and is just letting the fire consume him. This bad fire, like bad fire, this fire of false desire of like, well, I tried all this stuff and no woman I was attracted to loved me, and I tried to be a DJ, or I tried to do this, and look, nothing. There's nothing. And
there's all this proof.
There's all this like proof, but it was also true. Like I experienced it last week. Like I could barely get out of bed because of the COVID inflammation, and I was reduced to that burning boy. You know, luckily I can just stay and reach out for people who love me and kind of know this is my body. It's not my experience, but it, you know, thank God you're there, and other friends and wonderful therapists and amazing psychiatrists. Like there's this thing that's like holding this place that if I am that boy who's burning and given up and everything is awful, there's this place that's sort of holding it for me, which feels similar to being the 4-year-old with the animus, who is just, it's so hard to describe what the experience of being with the animus is once we're there, but it is like being, I feel it as being with this really wonderful, loving, protective father energy, which is fucking crazy, people, because I never knew that in my life.
Right.
It's like,
never had that. Had the total opposite, to say the least.
Yeah. And then even the men in my life who I thought were good, who like I projected onto, they couldn't really, because no one really can do that.
Yeah.
You know, like, but here I am feeling that. And so for me, what was mundane was my entire life, moment to moment, for so long. You know, but it was only mundane to cover the horror.
Yeah. It's so interesting. Yeah, it's so fascinating. It's such a great example of, again, the dreams, and also because my life was the opposite of mundane, like completely the opposite. Like and so this is like, and that's what the Hello Kitty personality was like. Everything's so fun, but my experience of life,
and that was part of my attraction to you.
Yeah, but
like you're gonna pull me out of the mundane.
Right.
You're excited and fun and
right.
Like, look at that thing in the tree, and I'm like, oh, I can. That's cool.
Right. And the thing is, of course, it's like.
By the way, we're sponsored by Fiji Water, or Fiji if you want to sponsor us.
It's all mixed in, you know. It's all It's just interesting because what I'm also aware of is how I didn't know how much I was carrying and how much, like, until that moment of the 13-year-old girl, and that is when I stopped eating and stuff, and but which was part of it, you know, like the total shutdown and not giving myself anything, but I mean, there's more to that. There's more. I feel like a lot of sort of like this revelation in terms of feeling, understanding of myself, and I felt so much, and I've felt so much very personal support from God, as I know God, and
even as a little one.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it was so fun. Like, my experience of just everything was so fun because I had this thing. Like, I did have someone. It wasn't, you couldn't see them, but like I really felt like I had someone who was right there with me and who really like was supporting me and understanding me and like totally believed in me completely and was like, yes, like saying yes to everything, was like, yes, it is so painful. Yes, it is. And I was like, why is it so painful? It just became so much more painful the older I got. Like, I was like, why is this happening? Like how, so that was like part of it is just like holding this immense like joy.
Like joy, and how can this be so amazing and everything else, no one else
And it's
is.
so, and there's so like all the projection and reaction. I didn't
Yeah.
have the language for it, but I was like, wow.
Yeah.
And then how it was in my house of like it being so miserable and like weirdly volatile, but like no one's talking about anything, and like we're all acting like putting on the picture of the perfect
I was
family.
so jealous
and like
when I went out there. It's like, oh, Amy grew up in this wonderful suburban Pennsylvania house. It was like all needs were met. And mom and dad together.
And like this amazing neighborhood, which is true, where it was like we just could run around.
It's like
and
American.
It was like safe, and that was amazing.
1960s American dream shit.
Yeah.
Your dad owned a business. And,
And so all, all the stuff. And, but that was like, and so it was so like, I couldn't handle, like I had no one who was helping me, like who was saying, I see this, I see how
like
messed up this is.
And how amazing.
Yeah.
This is other thing that's so amazing. Like,
yeah.
With my client, this is so beautiful in terms of like my experience with my client yesterday with the mundane dreams. He is feeling how fucking extraordinary his dream world is.
His internal world.
His internal world is that has the anima loving him and taking off his glasses, and has the work crew showing up when he can't drive his car. And he also, bless him, I think he's struggled with stuff enough that because he struggles with addiction, so which he's been able to kick, but he knows like depth of suffering, so you might as well fucking feel your feelings, in some way. But he's sort of stuck because the dark mother energy is literally still in the house. There's a mundanity to it that in the horizontal is kind of inescapable. He doesn't have the financial resource, but the vertical, holy shit. And I know with the work, based on my experience and how true it is, if he keeps doing this, this is going to change. Right. And the dream is already helping him, because the pathology, shadow stuff, has him acting in ways that's going to blow the relationship that he has with his fiance. And they're helping with that, because that seems like a really wonderful relationship. Like, she is different than his previous whatever. He seems like, who knows, right? But it seems like he's found this woman who really loves him and comes from a securely attached family, but he's acting in ways of like needing to be he had a dream where he thought people were messing with her and he needed to come in and be the hero, and she was like, what the fuck are you doing in the dream? It was like he then was able to like feel that sense of responsibility that covers the shame, and the anima's like, I don't need your help. I don't need you to do this. And that's starting to untangle, because there were examples, unsurprisingly, of that happening in his relationship.
It's so cool. The dreams are so, like, the archetypes, it's so, I was laughing at some point when you were talking about your dream, because I was just like, it's a perfect Ben dream. It's like, so the dreams are so perfect.
And your dreams are such a perfect Amy dream. This little 8-year-old Amy is like, I need help. No one's helping this 13-year-old girl. There's no one to help
I can't reach. And I couldn't reach her to help her.
You can't be Hello Kitty. You can't be the, I'm going to shuffle my feet to make a path in the snow, which I was like, it was funny because I was joking about it. I was like, my feet are different than yours anyway. Like, it wasn't really helpful. Plus, I have these big bogs I can just tromp through snow. But it's like I'm nervous to say this because you're also so helpful, but it's like the futility of that energy of helping. Like, the next person's going to pull the fucking toilet paper and it's going to get stuck again.
Yeah.
And
I
what
know.
I've learned
I
is
know.
you hit
I
the
know.
toilet paper as hard as you can, and then because I've tried to reach in and pull,
But it's like almost gone that roll.
but
So
if you
then
hit it really
got
hard and
it.
spin it, then it loose. Then you,
Oh.
yeah, I
Okay.
because I've been trying. Like, okay, I'm done pooping. I want to get up now, and I'm like trying to get the end. But what I realize, if you smack it really hard, it comes down.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. I'll try that.
But then you can't. It doesn't. It won't help the next person.
Right. Right.
Each person needs to
right.
smack the toilet paper really hard.
Yeah.
Because as soon as you pull it, it's done anyway.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Amazing. Amazing.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, we didn't even get to talk about the amazing concert slash sucky concert part and
The mundane,
and
the mundane,
the,
the mundane James Beard Award winning food and the mundane brilliant musician concert.
But before that, the most non-mundane concert, like the openers.
We saw these
so good.
fiddlers, daughter and father.
Ida May and John Specker.
Oh, Ida May and John Specker.
And
If
seriously,
you could, I don't even know if
I
that video
cried
like
the whole first song. I
fucking-
could barely stand
yeah,
it.
like yeah, it took over my body.
Yeah, yeah.
Like they were just stomping and fiddling
and
this,
he's like my absolute 100% hero. Like
Yeah.
I hope that when I'm 75, that's how I want to be. Like seriously,
So,
my
how-
version of
how
that.
was he?
My
What-
version of my version, the Amy version of him. He had this cool, which I already was like, I'm gonna make something like that because it was so cool. Like this like shiny stuff on him, like this
Like
chain
like
or something.
stars or-
Like
yeah.
and he was wearing all black. He's like like seemed really in good shape, and he was wearing Converse high tops with really bright white, clean white laces, and he was stomping on the stomp box, while he was playing, and he was just like totally like this ball of amazing energy and joy and like bright his eyes. He was there, like present.
And they have this little thing for the end of their fiddle. It was a leopard print.
Yeah, leopard print.
Piece
Yeah,
of fabric.
she had a pink one.
And I leaned over to my friend who came with us. I was like, that guy found out what he wanted to do when he was little, and he doesn't seem to have lost it. Like he loved playing, and he talked about his gratitude and his bow. He was like down to his last string.
Yeah,
like,
his strings were popping.
His bow, like the strings were just hanging loose.
Yeah.
So that was.
He had this
extraordinary.
mischievous. It's like it reminded me of my grandpa wake, where he had this like mischievous kind of grin. Like it was just this amazing like quality to his grin, where it was like, I have a secret, like in this the
it
best.
Was so
possible
like
way.
a boy, and he just talked about the gratitude. He also
Yeah.
mentioned like the gratitude of being able to perform.
Yeah.
Like there was like there were no airs.
He said something. What was the amazing thing that he said? Where he was like, "I'm trying to live up to the honor of being here." Or something.
Right. It's like this, and someone, either the person who introduced them or his daughter, I think it was the person who introduced him, said he's like the father of this particular kind of fit. Like he's already the best, most renowned guy who does this, and like a genuine, vulnerable humbleness of like, thank you for letting me do my thing, and the father daughter like that she was also fucking amazing, but in a very different way.
Yeah.
And the two of them.
Yeah.
It
was cool, and I love that she does stuff, on her own also, and you know, so. Yeah, it was really
not mundane, but then the contrast
was
of,
brutal. Dude.
Well, I think part of the contrast. I mean, this is like because it was the same thing in my experience with the restaurant. There were some exquisite parts of it, but the energy of the way we were served was like condescending.
Oh, he's so condescending.
Like the waiter guy all dressed in black, and like it was not like thank you for letting us create these magnificent dishes for you. My friend asked what the kind of curry was, and he's like, oh, it's a Thai curry. and it's filled with all sorts of Thai flavors.
And it's
a good beginner. It's
Yes.
a good beginner. It's like
a good entry
it's
level.
a good entry level into. And it's
Curry.
like, thanks. Like
What is
I'm
that?
here. I'm here because I love Thai food and curry. It's not like you've opened up Narnia to like a
Right.
Thai curry. It's
Right.
like, what is in it that I will know what it tastes like?
Right, like how's this different than the other ones? It's not clear on the menu,
Right.
and whatever, I don't know.
Yeah, and he couldn't.
Yeah,
He just couldn't.
yeah, it was
And-
so. It
yeah.
was like actually kind of like, what is happening in the moment? It was like, wait,
Yeah.
he's not that.
And it's the contrast because some like what you had
Mm-hmm.
and the soup that I had was kind of just
Yeah.
really like, oh,
Yeah.
this is why they won the award. There was
Right,
like an
right.
extraordinary different quality
Mm-hmm.
to it. But then the folks we were with,
Yeah.
one was the opposite of good.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
Like really not
really,
good.
really not good.
Yeah. And so it's like I think it's amazing, right? How this all the confluence, all the synchronicity around this, because we had like the highest and the lowest of this meal experience, extraordinary magical food cooked by this woman in the kitchen who was like a magician, being served by oppressive white male.
Right, very New York
Yeah,
City,
very
like
condescending.
you should be, you
Yeah.
know, like
Instead of,
bowing
like,
to us.
Right, instead of the grace of like, oh my gosh, you gave us this opportunity to cook for you.
Yeah, and also
like-
even the grace of we're all in this together, like
Yeah.
you know, something like we're
Yeah. And then he got happy because you were like, this is really good. He's like, oh, my ego got boosted, and all of a
Right.
sudden my defenses dropped.
right,
And
right.
holy shit, you're giving me all this tip in cash. Like, oh, now,
right.
you know, like
Yeah.
just like, that neurotic, all in black, New York.
Yeah,
ugh.
it was painful.
And then we went to this concert where there was this kind of brilliant young guy, tiny desk
Smart.
concerts,
Very smart.
intellectual, mixing in old folk traditions with Black American
Spiritual
history
music
and like hip hop beats and sampled voices, and it's like that sounds amazing.
I know,
But I got so bored. I left and went to Cumberland Farms to read the Boston Herald.
It was so good,
Mhm.
and I stayed because I thought maybe one of these songs is going to make me cry.
Yeah.
Like surely
Yeah.
that thing is going to poke through, or like something real, and it didn't. And I was literally falling asleep when we were in the front row, and like, and then the person beside me was actually was falling asleep, and I was like, and I thought, oh no, is it too late to leave? Can I just get, because wherever Ben is, I thought you were actually like curled up in a corner outside.
Well, I
the
went
theater falling
upstairs.
asleep.
I went upstairs because I thought if I step back, maybe I'll appreciate it. The sound quality will be better back there. And I went and I got so bored. I was just like deleting pictures on my phone.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
And then I was like, I just gotta move, like, because I was also post-COVID exhaustion, and I was like so uncomfortable. It's like Cumberland Farms is down. I walked to Cumberland Farms.
I know, but I haven't been to that Cumberland Farm, so I really missed out because I love convenience stores. But the thing about it was interesting for me in sleeping. No, we might talk about this and then sleeping on it and waking up and just being like, because I have vowed, which I know I've said at one point on one of these, you know, that if I'm in a movie and I don't like it, I'm gonna leave, you know, to not waste my time. Like it's really painful to be in something, you know, that is so like does not feel good and feels like, I don't know, it just doesn't feel, I don't like it. It feels like an offense to myself, you know, and why did I stay most of the time just to like, so for some ego thing or to help other people not feel bad.
But that's what you and the other person we went with said. Is like, I didn't want to get up because I would hurt their feelings being in the front row and leaving.
Right, and that ultimately was the thing that had me, you know, that kept me from going, is like, I guess maybe it's not going to last that much longer, and I'll just stay
Yeah.
And
Yeah, and so I was, whatever my healing particular thing was, I'm like really uncomfortable and bored and I need to move and I'm going to get up. And everyone kind of looked at me as I was getting, because I grabbed my coat. I was like, I was like, I'm out of here.
Oh, it was so
and
good.
I didn't hesitate for a second, which is a really big thing for me.
Yeah, and that's part of why I said, that's why I wanted to point that out as well. Like that was real, how awesome that is and how different, that is.
Busting the fawning.
Yeah.
Knowing that you can do the thing that, like, that you're not, it's not dangerous. Like, that's what I've been able to learn is it's like, it's not dangerous to be in your truth and act on it.
Right.
It's scary.
Right.
It can be really scary. But for me, I'm relearning that it's not dangerous.
Right.
To do that, there may be fucking fallout and ramifications.
Oh, people might be
all
hurt.
Sorts of shit.
Yeah.
People will be hurt and they'll be angry and they may try to fuck with you or like all of that shit. But
right, and here's and part of the nuance of like what, because then I was like, of course, like pathology wanted to come in and be like, you didn't do the thing you vowed you'd do, and like, and I was like, like that's really interesting though, like what, and part of it is the times when I have like left, it was so extreme, like that the extremity level of it was like why, like where I was like, it was so clear, like I was just like like Game of Thrones, like no, I'm not gonna watch this, even in my house, I turn it off and and like Uncut Gems and what like
which things, I love, by the way,
things that where I was like, this is so clearly actually hurting me, like 100% without a doubt. This is the opposite of helpful in any way. It is the opposite, But in this, it was like, but there are like he did sing this one, like the sort of traditional spirituals. Like I love them, and I was like, and there is substance there in my heart, like and I was sitting there listening, and I was like, why is this so bad? Like it was profoundly bad to me. Like I was like, they're trying to do something and it is not working.
Right, that's like, what it was.
It is really
it wasn't
not
like
working.
Lack of talent. Like it was like a lot. Like there was artistry in it, and there was depth of understanding, and there was fine music, but it wasn't.
It did not come together.
It was mundane.
Yeah, it was like really.
All the. It's sort of like the meal that the person got last night that wasn't good. It was like all the right ingredients, but you put them together and it was fucking bad. Yeah. It
was like a real miss, a real miss. It was kind of like interesting too, because the people beside me, just the whole energy of he was falling asleep, the guy beside me, and like he was getting his phone out in the middle of and was like a whatever late 50s early 60s guy, and he was. Yeah. He was bored, and so but I was like just noticing that the energy was just like pulling it was so heavy and pulling everyone down.
I was like, it'll be so much more exciting than this.
Anything?
Deleting pictures off my phone that I realized I don't want.
Yeah.
That is much more exciting.
Yeah, and there was it was interesting too. Yeah, it's just I have a lot of curiosity about some. There was like some woo, and I just was like,
and maybe it moves other people.
And that's great.
Totally fine too.
Yeah.
Unlike the Woody Allen in me is like, well, that idiot is clapping.
Right. Well, the part of me that dark part of me is like has to do with like the Montpelier, like super liberal, like and the like, okay, like this is we have to clap because like
because other people feel bad.
Like that part, which can, or just like also the kind of like it's James Baldwin being played over, if I don't clap then I'll be seen as racist,
there's all
like
sorts
stuff
of layers.
Many layers. So for those of you, so we did touch on all that stuff. So I had teased we're going to talk about what happened last night. So.
Yeah, it all comes together. God bless the boy who gave up and had to burn, and God bless the girl who had to hang herself. It's almost like the boy had to kill him. This boy has to die.
Yeah, yeah.
He has to be engulfed in flames, and the girl has to hang. So the other younger 4 and 8-year-olds and us can be like, hey, I need your help. I want to stand by you, Dad.
Yeah.
In this horror.
Yeah. And come back. I really needed. This has marked, I think, the return. Well, I don't know. That's just dramatic. But what I can feel with the real rebirth that's happening inside me is really feeling as this all comes back alive in a new, like, primal level, like, of my knowing and understanding, this deep knowing and understanding, and this um like intuitive, or just like this thing in me that does feel very particular, of like this way of noticing and feeling from a feeling level. How I notice is through feeling, and like, so as this is all coming back, I have him, I'm in his arms, so I don't need anyone to tell me that what I'm feeling is right, or what I'm noticing is real, because I have him again. Like, I have him who is like right there. I have that support that's right there, and which has been, been a homecoming I've been coming home to for a long time, and like had on some, but this is like, there's something, that's different about what's happening now.
The dreams are always, there's a little bit more.
Yeah.
It's different.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Now we have to go prepare for the Super Bowl.
Yes, exactly. Gotta go.
If you watch this, thanks for joining us. Reach out with questions or comments, or can send a dream if you're curious about your dream or any of that. And we'll continue. Have a good...
Bye. I hope the team you want to win wins today.
And if they don't, I hope you feel your feelings.
Because it feels fun when your team wins. That's just the truth, you know.
And it feels enraging. Bye.